I'm going to freeze dry some ribs by barbecuing them, then taking them off the bones, then freeze drying them. I'm loading the 10 pounds of ribs into 2 Ziplocs to marinate them for a while. This is the box they came in. I'm going to marinate them in a couple different marinades. One is a mesquite. The other one is a peppercorn. It's my favorite. They both take water and oil, and the peppercorn takes a little vinegar also. Then mix them up, and then pour it in with the ribs, and then let it soak for a little while. Then I'll toss it around in the bag a few times to make sure everything's well coated. And then I'll let it set for a while, till I'm ready to barbecue them. I'll get the other one going next. And now for the peppercorn marinade. A little water, a little bit of oil, and a little bit of vinegar. About 4 tablespoons because I'm doing 2 packets of the peppercorn marinade. So just pour that in there, mix it all up, and then pour it over the ribs. I'll gently toss them around to coat them, and I'll leave them in there for probably a half hour or so before I barbecue them. Okay, turn them frequently and put them on the barbecue when you think they've had enough marinade. I like to give them at least a half hour. Keep those another 15 minutes on that side, then into the oven. Okay, another 15 minutes. And take them off. Next, I'm going to finish cooking them in the oven. So, had it on low heat, 300 degrees for another hour to make sure that it's nice and tender and hot. Okay, that'll help render some of the fat out of it, so it'll be better for freeze drying. And then after it cools down just a little bit, I'll take it off the bones and get it ready for pre-freezing and then freeze drying. Oh, that looks good. Unless I eat it all, I have to cook more. Which is a good option, actually. Now that the ribs have had a chance to cool a little bit, I'm going to do my best to pull some of it off and put it into the pans. And so I'm not sure what the best way is. Maybe I'm not sure if I should use a knife or just kind of push and pull. So I'm just going to try that first. Oh, that's not bad. So maybe a little knife alongside. Well, that's not too bad. And there's snacks too. So I'm thinking if I use a little knife along this bottom edge. Okay, so pretty big chunks. Well, that was 5 ounces of meat off just the one rib. Or the pieces. Okay, so this time I'm going to try and just do a little cut on each side with a piece of ribs. I just want to try to pull them out of there and leave everything as intact as possible. I want to make sure they don't get too thick. So if you know how I'm supposed to get these out of here, let me know. Just trying to peel it off of there and then peel the bone right out of there. Probably doesn't really matter, you could just chop it all up. But I was trying to keep them big pieces. Some of them definitely come out easier than others. And into the freezer for pre-freezing. So now, time to get the ribs, or the rib meat, onto the freeze dryer trays. And I got them in little 1 pound chunks, so I'm going to try to keep those together. And these are very, very tall, so I'm not sure how long these are going to take. It'll be interesting. And I get the half tray, so I can have the half pound on there. But that way everything's already pre-measured out. When I go to bag it, I know I have a 1 pound and a half pound and another pound. All right, and then these are ready for the freeze dryer. We pre-cool the freeze dryer to below 0 degrees before we load the food trays in. Add one more thermometer because I can. I want to get the food out just as soon as it's done so that the trays don't cool down. That way I can check for cold spots in the food. So I leave the machine on until I'm sure that everything is dry, just in case I have to put things back in for more drying. Okay, so ribs. These are very thick. They're very tall off the tray. So these are the kind of things I worry about, whether or not they're going to be all the way dry. But so if I break these open, you can see there's nothing resembling moisture inside, no ice or anything. Wow, that's good. Wow. It's very dry, but very good. It's like the driest jerky you've ever had. Good flavor. Yeah, completely dry inside. So the ribs, I'm going to put them just a pound in each one, or what was a pound before they were dried. And I'm not real sure how I'm going to use them yet. We'll have to experiment. So I'm going to wrap a paper towel around the chunks of it. So in case it does have any fats on there, this will give it a place to absorb it. I'm going to try that and see how that works. All right. So I'll finish bagging these real quick, and then on to the oxygen absorbers. And just a little bit of snacking. In this last bag, I'm going to put about a half pound in there, about half of it, so we can experiment with half of it with rehydrating. All right, so I got a small sample I can try for rehydrating of some kind. I'm adding the oxygen absorbers. It has to be sized so that it absorbs the oxygen that's in there now, and the oxygen that's going to migrate into the bag over time. So they're well sealed. Again, oxygen absorber on these. I've actually oversized them, but that's important to make sure that it's matched well with what you have. And want to test these over time to find out how well they absorb the oxygen, to make sure that it is working over time. Now I'm going to try rehydrating some of the rib meat that was freeze dried. Okay, I'm going to use hot water because it's cooked meat. Cooked meat usually seems to do well with hot water, and because of the fats and things in it. that hot water seems to do a better job of rehydrating things like that. Okay, just got some boiling hot water, and pour over it and see what it does. With meats and things, you usually don't have to worry about the amount of water because it'll just absorb what it needs. You could also perhaps use like hot beef broth or something, though these are pork ribs, so it might not be the same. Well, I heated it for a few more seconds in the microwave and left it sit for 20 minutes, and it's coming along, but they're so thick, the pieces, and I knew that might have been a problem when I did it, but I thought it might work, might get away with it. So I think I need to shred it a little bit. So I think next time I'll probably cut it a little thinner, because some of these pieces are really thick. And it's hard for the water to get back in that deep in any reasonable amount of time. I mean, it took 30 hours to get out. I don't want to wait 30 hours to get it rehydrated. So I think I'll just shred it apart a little bit. I'm going to just shred it up a little bit so water can get in there better. So I think you need to shred them apart a little bit more, or cut them a little thinner, because I just had them way too thick. Because now that it's had time and broke it apart a bunch, that really worked. They're tender again.